Professor Lantum, we are back again. In our first part, we spoke about Fonlon, his formative years, what made him to be the person that he became, why was he an interpreter, why was he distinguished in the government, why was he a minister. So we have been able to understand that thanks to what you have told us about you are having known him as a child, as a seminarian, as a friend, and as an affectionate brother. So, Professor Lantum, before we go to your wonderful book, there's something very important, very, very important that has to do with. Fonlon was what he was because first his upbringing, second his profound Christian commitment, his intellectual brilliance, he was very intelligent, his lofty academic credentials, so many degrees and masters, now doctorate, his wide cultural exposure. So Fonlon did not only was born in Shishon, but he went to Nigeria, then he went to Europe, then he came back to Cameroon. Then we continue with this. One other aspect was his priestly training, which really made him to be a man of integrity and virtues. Because in the seminary you learn a lot of things. You learn how to sing, you learn how to respect people, you learn the formation is intellectual, human, pastoral, and human. No, there are four pillars. You have the intellectual, pastoral, the human, and the four of them: intellectual formation, human formation, pastoral formation, and how could I forget? Intellectual, human, pastoral, and the pastoral and the physical. You have to be fit to be a priest. You have to be fit. So Fonlon had all of those characteristics which helped him in his future life as a professor in the university. So Professor Lantum, let's go back to that. So Fonlon was a minister. What happened? Why did he go to the University of Yaoundé? So he went in 1971, if I'm not mistaken. He worked as a minister for some time. And what happened?
He resigned as the Minister of Public Health.
Okay, so he resigned as a Minister of Public Health.
I wanted to teach in the university.
Did you remember why he resigned? Why he resigned?
He had to transfer.
Okay, so he preferred to go now to the academia.
Yeah, to academia.
Okay. So do you remember some anecdotes with the students in the university? How was Fonlon different from the other professors? From what I read in the article, you said he even after he retired as a professor, he supervised theses of others without taking any money.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So he was a professor at the university, and one of the professors you mentioned yesterday was in Bamenda. He directed his thesis, the first Cameroonian that Fonlon directed his thesis. Yeah. Professor. I know that he should have, and Jumba Martin told me the name of him. And yes, okay, good. So another important thing was his love of music, poetry, classical art, Latin, which you mentioned. He studied Latin well, and he always quoted Latin. His commitment as a teacher, his mastery of French, profound love and loyalty to friends, shunning of wealth. I was told he had a very old car, and he was his own driver. He was one of the ministers in Cameroon with no driver.
Yeah.
Why did Fonlon decide to live like that?
I don't know why. But he preferred Lantum.
Exactly. And I was told his peers, the other ministers, could not understand him.
Well, he was particular. Other ministers want a 504 and so on.
Okay.
But he got in Lantum.
Oh, I see. Interesting. And his adaptation to poverty as a way of life. Simple and detached from earthly things.
Yeah.
Okay. Could this be seen in his dressing? He was always dressed in his khaki.
Simple dress. From
yes, very simple. Okay. And he lived a saintly celibate life. He didn't get married.
He didn't get married.
Talk to us about that, Professor Lantum. What did his family say about his celibate state? Were the family happy that he didn't get married? Was there any?
When you say family, who?
Like his siblings. Did any of them tell him, Fonlon, don't you know you have to get married and have a family? No. They respected his decision.
And he adopted the children of his sisters.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
And got them to enroll as his children.
Okay.
They were having some child allowance.
I see. Wow. So he didn't get married, but he was a sponsor of many children.
Yes.
Very
He sees her children.
interesting. Interesting. Okay. So he was well educated, a polished intellectual of high integrity, prepared to serve Cameroon, and he did serve Cameroon. Quite interesting. So I'm going to conclude with Professor Fonlon's book on Professor Lantum's book on intellectual in politics. This is, and not only an intellectual in politics, Professor Lantum, which I'm going to add in my book that he was a Christian in politics. Christian, who lived the virtues of honesty, of sincerity, and of detachment. In your book, there's one point which I would like to begin with. I like the way you wrote the book. You really took time to write it. It was very profound, very, very profound. And in the book, you mentioned that, I still remember the page, achievements and successes of Professor Fonlon as in politics. And you mentioned many of them here, which I'm going to cite later. Let's not go deep into the book. Do you remember just spontaneously some of the achievements of Fonlon?
Although Fonlon was an Anglophone, even in Yaoundé, his parish was a monastery. And I used to go with him several times to monastery.
To pray, to attend mass.
Attend masses. And he will have discussion with monks.
Interesting.
I do remember that very well.
Okay. So,
But occasionally he would come to our parish,
I see.
the Anglophone parish, which I started.
Okay, which thanks to you, you spoke with Archbishop Jean Zoua at the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So now tell us, Fonlon retires as a minister, as a minister, works in the Yaoundé University as a professor, retires, and is awarded honoris causa in the University of Guelph in Canada.
That we could understand.
Interesting.
We could understand that.
Okay. But he traveled there to get there.
He traveled there, told me he was going and went.
Okay.
And I remember at that time,
Yes.
he was directing the thesis of Naloba Yoga.
Okay. Now minister.
Producer, yes. Producer Danny.
Okay.
And the other was the secretary of the Fonlon Society in Yaoundé.
Okay. Interesting. So he went to Ottawa, got the honoris causa, and then what happened after?
He stayed in the ambassador's house. Ambassador was young.
Okay, young Philemon. Okay.
In Montreal.
Yes.
And Young had been living with him for some time before he went to Montreal.
Okay.
And when he went to Montreal, he stayed for 20 years.
Interesting.
Ambassador. So when since I was so attached to him,
Yes.
yeah, but who was living with him was living with me as well.
Okay.
I knew Young. And Young knew me up till today.
Yes.
We are friends.
Interesting. So he was there, he went there in June 1986 and he died in August. What happened?
He had asthma.
Asthma.
He used to have attacks of asthma.
Okay. So it was not the first time, he had always had attack of asthma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Professor Victor, I know who used to prescribe
Oh,
some drugs for
for
asthma.
him. Okay.
Each time they finish, he would prescribe some.
died, and how were you informed? How did you know he died?
He died in young house.
Oh, young Philemon, ambassador of Cameroon in Canada. He informed you.
So, and I visited Canada after that.
To find out.
Yes. How the children died in his house.
Okay.
I was sitting in the same bed,
Yes.
and the cook told me, that chair where you are sitting, he sat down there and his asthma began.
Interesting.
So we took him to hospital and he died in the hospital.
Okay.
No, also,
So tell us about his how was his corpse brought to Cameroon, the arrangement and all that.
so he came to call hospital,
Okay.
Moria, the coffin. And they said it was sent by air,
I see.
Cameroon.
Prince Malen. Where did he land? Where did the corpse land? The plane.
In London, Moria.
Okay.
Here.
Here in Yaoundé.
At that time, most senior person, politician from the generation was Herman Minor.
Okay.
And when the news came to Herman Minor, minister,
Yes.
Herman Minor informed me, my friend had died.
Okay.
When they collect the corpse. So when I said, Mr. Minister, you stay in your house, let me go and collect the corpse from the plane.
Okay.
And when I took the corpse, brought it, put it in the London,
Okay.
we go to Fonlon house.
In Yaoundé. Was there wait keeping that night?
Many people came.
Many people came. Okay. Oh my God. Then after that, to Kumbo.
And we decided to take him to Kumo and bury him in Kumo.
Okay. So he was buried beside his friend, Father Wanku.
Yeah.
And the mass was celebrated by Dr. Cornelius Eswa, the Bishop of Kumbo.
Yeah.
What memories comes to mind when you remember, first of all, when you remember when you were told that Fonlon had passed away?
So my friend had gone.
Or how did you feel? How was the feeling?
I had to go and see the cops.
Okay. To believe.
Yes. I wrote the book. Unfortunately, when my secretary comes here next week,
Okay.
I'll get a book I wrote
Please.
on the burial of Fonlon and what happened.
Please.
I'll give you the book.
Please. Please. That would be very important. Very important. We need as many books as possible about Professor Fonlon because he distinguished himself. So Fonlon died and it's 34 years now. 34 years now. And Professor Lantum, tell me something. You told me that after some time you wrote a letter to the Bishop of Kumbo proposing him to begin a process of beatification for Professor Fonlon. What happened? Was there any reaction?
Everything is still within the documents, are still within the bishop.
That was Bishop Cornelius Eswa.
No, that was not Cornelius.
Okay. The new one, Bishop George Wu.
Yes.
Okay. So my open letter, which I wrote on the 8th of August, added to your proposal. It was an open letter, earnestly requesting a consideration, an earnest consideration on the beatification of Professor Fonlon. And I gave the reasons why I wrote the letter, how I came to know Fonlon, what the Catholic Church says about it, and in the conclusion I said, Fonlon needs to be distinguished not only by the church but also by the society. A university has to be established in his name because he was the first Cameroonian to have a PhD, and he has inspired many young people like Cardinal Christian Tule, Archbishop Paul Vetzekov, and many others.
He really strong with like his son.
You see? And they were very good friends. I saw many pictures, they were always together. And he wrote many things in the Cameroon Panorama when Archbishop Vetzekov was still a priest. That was 1961.
On editorial
Okay.
in Boya.
In Boya. Interesting. So, Professor Lantum, you were very close to Professor Fonlon. Tell me more about Professor Fonlon at work. How was him at work in the office? Do you remember any anecdotes? At work, let's say in the office as a minister.
Nothing particular.
Okay. So he was a simple man. He comes to office at the time, leaves at the time, working in his office. And I hear his secretary was Kenjo Jumambu, what the white man of God, he was his secretary. Okay. So at work, he was a teacher. Okay. So that's an important point in the book. And tell me more about the Abia. Fonlon established a magazine called Abia.
How long are you here?
I'm here, Professor Lantum. The point is that I intend to go to Nigeria next week to interview the classmate of Professor Fonlon, Monsignor Alphonsus Aguias. And when I'll be coming back, I don't think I'll come back to Yaoundé. A fly entered my mouth, sorry. So I was intending, Professor Lantum, to use this the whole of next week to gather as much material as possible and to interview Minister Loyonga next week, so that when I leave next week, I won't come back again. I won't come back to Yaoundé because I'm flying from Douala back to Germany.
I'm sure I must have copies over there.
Okay, by next week. Okay.
Next week, when my secretary comes to look into the file.
Please.
This house belongs to me.
Okay, it's very large, and I want to thank you very much for having given me hospitality. Thank you.
And our library, there's a library here, there's a library here.
Okay.
There's a library behind the house here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When my secretary comes to look around,
Okay.
he'll see all the books I wrote about Fonlon,
Okay.
and then he will
I'll make a copy of all of them.
possibly out there. You get some, he will get copies over there.
Okay.
This library here. So see, you should be here.
Yes, I'll be here for. So today is Sunday, right? Today is Saturday. So, but next Friday Friday I'll be leaving for Owerri.
Okay.
So during this time, I'll spend some time with them. Spend some time doing research on Fonlon and interviewing the minister, if it's possible, but before I return next week, because she was a president to the Fonlon Society. She should know more about Fonlon and
Secretary.
Secretary. Okay, secretary.
Fonlon Society, I wish I was a member.
Okay. And tell me more about the Fonlon Society. Who established this society?
Who created it?
After his death.
Before his death.
Oh, interesting. What was the aim and objective of the Fonlon Society?
He was a complex person.
Okay.
He wanted to understand him more.
Okay.
And the other one was more of an association of society. And I was the secretary.
Okay.
And when we met, we discussed aspects of Fonlon.
That was a very good initiative. Very good initiative. And it was thanks to that Fonlon Society. There's a Fonlon website society actually. And it's thanks to that I got to read more about Fonlon and the different tributes that were written to him after his death. Professor Lantum, another important point you got in your book is we are soon finishing. We have some other concrete achievement of Professor Fonlon. Concrete. You said that as deputy foreign minister between 1964 and 64, Fonlon lost no time in enriching the foreign service. He enriched the foreign service with some of the fine intellectuals of the West Cameroon origin. And you said that it will be remembered that at that time, many intellectuals were unfortunate victims of the Boyake NDP regime, whose leadership consisted essentially of elders teachers with the higher elementary teacher training for their educational background. And so Fonlon had a great role to play here. as a Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was very, very involved in the rehabilitation of Cameroonian citizens who had fled the country under the banner and the banned UPC. So he did a lot to bring peace. Okay, interesting. As Minister of Communications, 1966 to 1970, Dr. Fonlon went out for the best talent in his ministry. So he promoted them on merit, ignoring the complaint about a tribal conglomeration in the ministry. So Fonlon was not tribalistic. He was a man of togetherness. And Prof. Lantum, this brings me to a very important issue. Somebody asked me, George, you are not even a Banso man. Why are you so interested in Fonlon? I said, I am interested in Fonlon because of what he did. And we as Cameroonians have to love Cameroonians who have done something, irrespective of the tribal groups. So that's the reason I gave to many people who keep on asking me, hey, you're not even from Banso, why are you taking Fonlon so seriously? I tell them, I'm taking Fonlon seriously because one, he was a Cameroonian, I am a Cameroonian. Two, because he distinguished himself. Can you imagine in 1961 having a doctorate degree already? So it's an example for Cameroon as an intellectual state, and it has inculcated in many Cameroonians the spunk and the desire for academic excellence. You go to everywhere in the world, you see Cameroonians studying, thanks to the
I just don't understand that.
Okay. Why?
What Fonlon did.
Fonlon did because he had studied already, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see?
I would like you to see the man from the village.
Okay, no, I will do.
And the man, he gave Alamani a scholarship.
Okay. Oh, did he?
Yes.
Ah.
To go and study in Russia.
Who did that?
Fonlon.
Really?
And the man is so grateful. And I studied engineering in Russia.
Interesting. So you see what Fonlon did? Fonlon gave scholarships to many people. He opened the doors to many people. He founded the Abia, which published many cultural articles.
Mm-hmm.
Why was the Abia? Why has the public? What happened to the magazine? Why was it? Why did he stop?
Well, Abia was being paid for by the presidency.
I see. So the presidency stopped it.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped paying after he died.
That's right time there.
I wish we had the so now Fonlon and close association in politics. So he was very close to people like Agustin Ngomjua and all the others, right? In politics, and you got to know him, you got to meet him. That was a wonderful thing. So now, let's conclude with your assessment on Fonlon. Do you think Dr. Bernard Fonlon was a successful or a failure in politics? What can you say about that? Do you think he was a success in politics or a failure?
Yeah, he was running the politics of the time.
Okay.
His own style, they were different.
Okay.
Don't know what God was doing.
Okay.
Now, if he was trying to promote something on the reforms,
Yeah.
it's because he couldn't understand who and where
Okay.
and what they knew
Yes.
and what they could do,
Okay.
and that he needed them in other countries. So it was a compliment to him.
Okay. So at the time he was not understood.
He was not well understood.
Well understood. But now we can understand Fonlon. Having traveled the world, we can understand Fonlon. And that's why I appreciate him. Because I have traveled to, I've studied to, and I know what it takes to travel from a country to another to study. It's not easy. And you mentioned, Professor Lantum, that Fonlon was a man of letters. He wrote many letters, many books, many articles.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. And he said Fonlon is man of spirit, man of the spirit. So he had his willpower to do things.
Yeah.
And nobody could change his view when he wanted to do something.
When he's doing anything, he's doing it for the interest of the public.
Okay, and another important
And
thing.
everybody will accept generally.
Okay. People also. Interesting. Okay.
So when you do, you will know him.
Interesting. So in conclusion, Professor Lantum, I would like to thank you sincerely for having. I got in contact with you. I had read a lot about you before, but the interest really increased when I wrote my open letter, and Fonlon in Sabine brought the letter to you, and I saw it, and I told Sabine, you know him, right? Warren. I told Warren, you know him.
Who?
Warren. So he's the one who, I saw him, I said, please, I'd like to have the contact of Professor Lantum. So he gave me the contact of Bongte. And that's how the contact started. I said, no, I would like to. No, he has done an excellent job. I would like to thank him sincerely. Thank you for having me the mediator between myself and Professor Lantum. It has been, you see, this interview we've conducted today is absolutely important. It's going to enrich my book, and you're going to get a copy. And my prayer is that the launching of the beatification of Professor Fonlon will begin as soon as possible. Yes. 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 Because the people they wanted. The reactions of the letter were all positive. Many people speak good of Fonlon. They know Fonlon from outside Cardinal Arinze. I said you have to see that letter of Cardinal Arinze. I have it here. I'm going to read it to you because it's too important. It's very important to know this. He actually sent a letter to me on the 34th anniversary of Fonlon. It's absolutely important for you to know about this, Cardinal Arinze.
He came here.
Yeah, he told me and celebrated Mass at the Anglophone.
In my parish.
Are you still able to go to the parish every Sunday?
I cannot go now because I'm paralyzed.
Exactly. Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. You be my prayers, and I am very, very sure that the Lord is going to bless you, keep you strong and safe, and constant health, constant joy, constant happiness, so that you may enjoy the fruits of your labor. Yes, because God is the main person. If we believe in God, He's always going to be with us, keep us safe and strong, and everything is going to be fine with us. So this was what is wrote Professor Lantum, so that you can understand how important Fonlon is. Dr. Sokika Fonlon Unforgotten. I hold Dr. Bernard Sokika Fonlon in very high regard. I first got to know him in Biga Memorial Seminary in Enugu, Nigeria in the years 1953-1954. He was in his second year theology when I entered that major seminary in September 1953. When he and his classmates were due to be ordained subdeacons in December 1954, the seminary authorities and his bishop decided not to admit him to holy orders. As a seminarian, I saw Fonlon as a learned seminarian. I still remember how with lustre he sang Audi Benigne Conditor during Vespers in Lent. He took no breakfast. When other seminarians were at breakfast, he was studying. We believe he was at Latin and Greek. During holidays and in the years after he had to leave Biga Memorial Seminary, he used to visit one of his Nigerian priests, Monsignor Peter Meze Idogo, who was very kind to him, as he also was to seminarians in general. So